As I mentioned earlier on, we are going to talk about matters of Madi Jabate and his arrest. In the studio with us, we have a guest this morning who is going to talk to us about the arrest of and the charge of Madi Jabate yesterday. We go with that and then we introduce our guest this morning that we have. He's a prominent individual in the Gambia. He's not really new. I'm sure that you will all know him. A Gambian human rights activist has been charged with false publication after a brief detention at the Kairaba police station on Tuesday. Madi Jabate accused the government of failing to investigate instances of police brutality, including the death of 3 Gambians. Madi Jabate, who is the country representative of the Westminster Foundation, was speaking to journalists at the Black Lives Matter protest at the American Embassy on Saturday, where he blamed government for failure to bring about justice into the killing of her people. On the studio with us this morning is Mfamara Jaune, chairman of the civil society organization Dialogue Platform on Human Rights, and of course he is the executive director of Bekanyang. Good morning, Mr. Jaune, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Very well. Yesterday, a prominent individual, human rights activist Madi Jabate, was invited at the Kairaba police station for questioning, but later on he was charged with false publication and, of course, detention, broadcasting. What is your take on the arrest of Madi Jabate?
Well, thank you very much, Jolda. First of all, this is very unfortunate. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot arrest and charge people for merely expressing their opinions. You cannot do that anywhere in the world. For merely expressing their opinions, you cannot do that. So this is very, very unfortunate. And I feel like Madi was doing what is expected of him as a citizen. He was just exercising his right, as any one of us as citizens, that if you feel like you are not satisfied with the way the country is governed or anything about the development of the country, you have the right, like me and you. He has the same right to come out and express his opinion about how the country is governed or whatever. These rights are guaranteed by the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia, as well as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So therefore, if you are arresting him and charging him for merely expressing his opinion, I think this is very unfortunate.
What did you say to the reason forwarded by the police for false publication? And of course, you know...
It's funny. It's funny because Madi, first of all, is not a journalist. Madi is not a media owner. He's not a publisher. He's not a broadcaster. He doesn't own a media house to publish. So why charge him for that? So it's very unfortunate. Instead, like I said, instead of the police, investigate what Madi was demanding and tell the Gambian people the status of their investigation into the killings of these people, they are trying to bring bogus charges against Madi. It's very unfortunate.
Well, all right, we just go with the video right now, which has been circulating on social media, which is believed to be the statement for the reason for the arrest and charge of a prominent human rights activist, Madi Jabate. We go with that and come back.
That it has to stop. So it is not just a matter of the United States and George Floyd or Mohamed Lamin Sisse, but it is to say, even in the Gambia, police brutality has to stop. I mean, the taking of the lives of Gambians, of Africans in Gambia, in Africa, and around the world has to stop. We have experienced in this country itself many instances of black lives being taken by the state, under the former regime, and right now under the current regime, we have instances of police brutality for which there has not been justice and accountability. We recall the name of Haruna Jata, for example, in Kanilai, who was shot. We remember the case of the UTG student Keba Seka, who was killed by security forces. We remember the case of Usman Dabo, who was detained and tortured by the anti-crime unit. Until today, there's no justice for that. So all of this constitute the same story, like the case of George Floyd, or the case of Breonna Taylor, or the case of Trayvon Martin, or the case of
That is Madi Jabate there speaking, of course, on the video that is circulating on social media, alleging that he was speaking there at the protest of the Black Lives Matter, where he mentioned that the government is not taking enough to investigate the death of these young people. What is your take on the statement Madi Jabate made, and of course which led to his subsequent invitation and of course charging and all that?
Mahdi, like any one of us, like I said, like any citizen, is entitled to his opinion. And therefore, for me, this action of the police is just is a way of police trying to suppress the citizens and then also, suppress divergent views of the citizens. But Mahdi, like I said, like any one of us, is entitled to his opinion. And therefore, as right advocates, we cannot just be calling for respect of human rights in the US and elsewhere in the world and ignore blatantly the human rights abuses and violations in our own backyard. We cannot do that. And therefore, Mahdi is entitled to his opinion, like any one of us. And for the fact that he is trying to hold government accountable, we have to applaud Mahdi for that. This is what we expect from every citizen of this country, to hold the government accountable, because that's what the 1997 Constitution provides for us to do as citizens, to hold the government accountable and have our opinions heard. And also the Universal Declaration of Human Rights also makes the same provision for the citizens to have free access to information, freedom of opinion, and the like. So therefore, I just want to say that the police is just using the former tactics, the tactics of the former regime, of suppressing dissenting opinion, and therefore this is unacceptable in this country, especially in this new democracy that we call the new Gambia. It's sad, and I just call on the police to let Mahdi free, apologize to Mahdi, and then withdraw or drop all these charges against him.
Considering the police yesterday, they charged him using the criminal code, section 181A of subsection 1 of the criminal code, where they mentioned that, false publication and broadcasting and all that. Do you think Mahdi's statement, like you said, it was an opinion, was in line with the charges that was really made to Mahdi?
At first instance, why charge him for his opinion? An opinion of this nature, why charge him? I'm telling you, the same provision that they are using was the same provision that Jammeh government was using against Gambians to silence us.
Don't you think it's because of perhaps he was alleging that the government did not do what they're supposed to have done? That's why he was, called to answer some questions about, his statement or remark?
I might not know, but if the police, if Mahdi feel like, if Mahdi feel like the police haven't done enough, is this right to say so? So the police have to come out now and challenge by also bringing their side of the story. If investigations are going on, let them come and tell us how far with the investigations. So the facts are that they really have no case as far as I'm concerned.
So considering the security sector reform, which is 3.5 years now, to reform the security sector and all that, is it in the right footing? Considering instances of this, it's really happening, police brutality, alleged killing of innocent citizens in the New Gambia.
I have been part of some sessions where we discuss this security sector reform process and everything. But to be honest with you, I have to say, for me, I haven't seen anything that is progressive as far as security sector reform is concerned. Considering all this happening in their society, come on, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that when we are trying to reform the security sector, issues of arbitrary arrest are emerging. This is unfortunate. I was at Serekunda Market, not long ago, during the public state of emergency. And I saw myself how anti-crime officers were packing people's property and then slapping people, forcing them. You understand? I was trying to take some snapshots, but I also took cognizance of the fact that in the past, those are some of the things that they can confiscate your materials, and
course,
then obviously they will not give me my phone back. So I couldn't do that. So this is why I'm saying that with regards to security sector reform, we have a long way to go, honestly, because these are the lists that we expect to happen at this moment in this country.
All right. Now, of course, you sound very disappointed on what we are talking about here, Mahdi's invitation to the police. But reports are saying that, of course, he's expected to go back to the police today and for protection or whatsoever. What do you expect would happen from here? Of course, you are calling for charges to be dropped and all that. But essentially, what is your message to the authorities, of course, beyond the police, if necessary?
Well, I have said that very clearly, that this is unfortunate. That the best thing that they could do and sustain our democracy is to release, is to, drop the charges against Mahdi, apologize to Mahdi. For me, that's the best that they could do.
In case that did not happen, what do you think would be the position of other activists, or maybe the Gambian people, or should I say, in fact, people like yourself?
Well, obviously, if they continue to go ahead with the charges, I think if I were Mahdi, I would also sue the police.
Oh, really?
For infringing on my rights. Yes, if I were Mahdi, I will also do that. That's an option as well. Okay. The law guarantees that for every citizen to express his or her opinion. So if the police are trying to impede on your rights, you can also infringe on your rights. You have the right to claim for the restoration of those rights. So if I were Mahdi, I will do that. But I don't think it will reach there.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, they have no case against him. They have no case. And this case will end up being just like any other case that is thrown out of the court.
Of course, freedom of speech and expression in the New Gambia, compare it to that of Jammeh's time. Many people have critics, even critics say that freedom of expression and of course speech has improved relatively in the New Gambia. But over the years, 3 years down the line, or 3.5 years down the line, how would you describe the Gambia in terms of their freedom of speech and expression?
At the beginning of the change of government, we are very optimistic that definitely the way things were going at the time, we are happy with regards to freedom of expression, freedom of the media. But during the past 12 months, you can ask yourself, with all the things happen here, just a few days ago, a journalist was maltreated. You remember Pamodu Bojang and his media house and his colleagues at King FM. So, so Mahdi also expressing his opinion, even though he's not a journalist, but as a citizen. So all this is an attack on the freedom of the press and freedom of the media. So therefore, the situation for me at the beginning, it was improving, but I think now we are going back to old days of Jammeh. That's my honest opinion. And therefore, citizens have to speak up. We have to speak up against police brutality. We have to speak up against abuse of human rights in this country as citizens.
All right. Finally, tell us your rating of the government in terms of freedom of expression, movement, of course, development, and all that is happening in the Barrow-led administration of recent.
It's a bad mixed, mixed with red, white, blue, different colors. In colors here represent about the ups and downs. In some areas, you can see some infrastructural developments taking place. We have to be very honest, like our part of the world. In Basi, the bridges have been built and constructed, roads here and there. But that's not enough. Even that Woolley I just posted recently, between Sarangai and Sarateneng, those roads are motorable. They are just immotorable. You cannot use them. They are just bad as anyhow you can imagine. So that is why I said it's a mixture. But again, when you come to the media, we've seen the proliferation of more media houses coming in. More television stations have been established in this country. Before we used to have only GRTs, right? Yeah. So that's an improvement on the side of the government. But like I said, the arrest of citizens for just expressing their opinions really is a very big setback for our democracy. You can have all these infrastructural developments, but for the fact that you have opportunity to abuse people's rights, that is a big, big setback for our democracy. And therefore, we need to respect fundamental rights as guaranteed in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and also in the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia.
And the final message on Mahdi's case is for him to be.
Let them just drop the charges against Mahdi. That's the bottom line.
All right.
Mfamara Jaune, Executive Director of Bay Kanyang in the Gambia Association of the Gambia here. Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.